Hi, my name is Katsupene, and today I'm going to be painting the Dazzler Premium Format Figure by Sideshow. Let's get started. So usually when I start a figure, I like to start with the skin tone and the portrait. What you see me painting here is just the base color, and the base color I usually start with a mid-tone so I can then add highlights and shadows, and once I have that done, I'll seal it, and then I'll do a couple layers of washes that I'll sponge off. I usually start with a yellow, and the sponge is sort of a moist sponge that I'll just use to sort of break up that wash that's on the skin. The wash is a translucent paint, and it's got quite a bit of water in it, because really all I'm looking to do is add a bit of paint texture, visual texture, to break up that skin tone. After the yellow, I'll go in with a blue wash, also translucent, and again, continue to break up that color, but the buildup of the yellow and the blue and then later a red is going to deepen that skin tone, but it keeps all those highlights and shadows that I've added earlier on. So here I'm adding some of that, it's kind of like a warm brown color, more red in there, and that just sort of helps break up the skin and add some warmth to it. I'll add a little extra around the cheeks and the nose. Once I have the skin where I want it, where I'm happy, I'll go in and start to dial in the portrait. Usually with the eyes and since she's smiling and showing her teeth, I'll do the teeth, and I'll pick out a color that's not a white that's like straight from the bottle. I'll usually add a little bit of the skin tone, maybe a little bit of raw umber to kind of gray it out a little bit. And I'll base out the teeth and the eyes sort of the same color before I go in and add some washes and whatnot, just to give the teeth a little bit of depth. Otherwise, they look really flat in the face. Dazzler has that nice feathery face makeup on, so I masked it off with a little bit of tape and a little bit of liquid latex. And I sprayed a little bit of blue on there as well as an interference blue, so it has a little bit of a sparkle. So once I have that done, I can go in and finish up the portrait. I will go in with sort of a light brown to do the eyelashes, and then I'll start on the eyes. She's got blue eyes, so I have like a nice darker blue on the outside. I'll pencil in where the pupil is and definitely put it on the statue and double check that the eyes are looking in the same direction and in the direction that I would like. For Dazzler, we decided to go with a blue for the eyebrows. It's just sort of it's like a shadow, almost like she's got her face paint on and the eyebrows are just sort of underneath, so they're still blue. From there, I will take a lighter blue and do little striations to add a little bit of depth to the eyes, because they're not just a solid color. There's a lot of colors going on in there, and so just kind of little lines around the pupil that'll help distinguish the eyes. So once I have the portrait done, I like to work on the hair. That'll also help frame the face. Same as with the skin, I'll start with sort of a mid-tone and then add highlights and shadows. And she has this bleach blonde hair, and so I went in with a really nice warm yellow-brown for the shadows, but then also because she's cosmic, I decided to add a little bit of sparkle. So I went in and did a little bit of a dry brush on the high points of her hair, and that dry brush is a little bit of a bright gold and then an interference gold. So as you move it, her hair is going to have a little shimmer to it, which really adds to the whole piece. Then came her outfit, which was really a lot of fun. So I based it out in a purple and did some kind of like a lavender purple. It's pretty low key, but then I did a lot of highlights and shadows. I really wanted to accentuate it, because then what I did is I have this paint that has a holographic chrome. You use it at a really low pressure, and I really wanted to hit it mostly and really heavily on the highlights, because again, you're going to see most of this effect. It's kind of like your pearls and stuff like that. You're going to see them more where the light is hitting it and not so much in the shadows. Really makes the whole thing pop. Then I went on to her roller skates, and she's sort of surfing on this light wave, and so you'll see there's a little bit of yellow of the light wave on there, little highlights and shadows, and then her skates, which are chrome. I painted those, based them in a glossy black, and then hit it with the chrome, and the chrome is kind of like the paint that I used on the outfit, where you have to run it at a really low pressure, so that lets the chrome lay on there really nice. since I had the chrome, I went ahead and I started painting her disco ball. Now this chrome paint is lacquer based, so you want to be careful where you're spraying it, and you want to make sure that you have some really good ventilation. From there, I moved on to the planets that are also on the base, and I'm trying to create a little bit of motion in these guys. So you'll see a few different colors of blue on one planet and shades of orange. I wanted them to feel like these gaseous sort of swirling clouds of planets. And then on the base, I wanted a darker blue, a more purple, but you'll see this one's a little bit easier to see how I've got a bit of a motion going, not necessarily following the sculpt exactly, but I'm following the general movement of these clouds that's on the sculpture itself. I masked off most of the planet. There were these sort of blobular areas. We really wanted the whole thing to feel like a drawing from Kirby. And so there's these sort of masses of shadows that he would do. And so I masked it all off and then took a translucent black paint. But then after that, to really give it that Kirby feel, I went in and added all this Kirby Krackle. So it was a whole lot of little dots, as you'll see, all over the place, big, small, trying to give it a little bit of that Kirby Krackle that's so distinctive of Kirby's artwork. So the planets have this, the base has it, and then eventually you'll see it also on wisp of the base cloud that sort of swirls up, and that has it on the bottom as well. So from there, I went back and I painted her one hand that's sort of sweeping through the cosmos, shall we say. Now the best way to get this effect, because that piece was all one piece, but her hand is opaque, but the effect, I really wanted it to be clear. So I just went in and hand painted the hand. All the same techniques that I used earlier with the highlights and the shadows and the washes to paint the hand, but then also sort of leaving the edge of the fingers not super distinct. I just sort of airbrushed them a little bit soft so that it's sort of, she's kind of a part of the cosmos. She's sort of blending with it. And then I went in and I painted with some translucent paints, a little yellow, a little pink, and a little bit of this like purple, blue, black sort of right at the tip. I really wanted it to feel like it was just sort of disappearing at the end. From there, I started painting all her little magic glows and sparkles everywhere, sort of using the same colors, the yellow, the pink, and maybe on the ends just a little bit of the purple sort of coming in. The hard part about this was not getting too saturated with the color. In other words, not putting too much paint on there. So the first time around, I messed up and went a little too heavy, so I had to take the paint off and do it again. But once I had that where I wanted it, then there's these little blue circles on her magic that I wanted to paint. So I had to masking tape all around there with a little bit of liquid latex as well. And so I just did a little bit of blue and then a thin stripe of a pearl right in the center. From the magic, I decided I'd start painting the light wave that she's sort of roller skating on. Same as before, I wanted it to have a little bit of motion, so I didn't just paint the whole thing yellow. I did the yellow in stripes so you can see that there's a bit of a flow to the whole thing. And then at the end of that, there's a little clear wispy part because we wanted the light wave to feel like it's just sort of disappearing. It sort of gives a sense of motion of where she's been, and that's the part that's sort of disappearing and clear. So once I had the yellow where I wanted it on the light wave, I went on the backside. She's got a little bit of this sort of pink cloud that's come up from the base planet. Again, trying to give it a little bit of motion and feel of movement with the direction of the paint. Once I had that done, I realized that I wanted a little bit more color in the part of the light wave that is disappearing off in the distance. So I went in and added a little bit of the pink and purple that I had in the light wave where her hand was sort of sweeping through the cosmos. So I wanted those to match up a little bit. And then from there, I added a bunch more Kirby Krackle in the light wave just to bring the whole piece together, to really make it feel like a Jack Kirby piece. So this time, instead of using black, I just used a darker yellow, more orangey yellow, and just brought the light wave up towards the top. There's some more on the bottom, and again, tried to give it a little bit of movement. I added some interference gold and an interference violet and a pearl, just sort of put some little speckles over the whole thing to just make her just feel that much more cosmic, basically. There is a cloud sort of coming up from the larger base planet that connects to her light wave. I went in with a translucent pink. On clear parts, you have to be a little bit careful because if you just paint the whole thing pink, it can feel like a piece of candy. You can see I'm just getting a little bit heavier in some parts and a little bit darker in some others, but you can see the sculpture better when you're a little more selective about what it is that is getting painted on there. And then from there, I went in and added that Kirby Krackle at the bottom of the translucent part. There's little bumps on the sculpture, painting those as part of the Kirby Krackle, but then stepping outside of those and painting a few as well, it just sort of helps merge it all together. Like some are just more dominant than others, and so you have little ones that are just painted directly onto the sculpture. Dazzler is not a subtle character, and adding a little bit of some uniqueness to this piece was really a lot of fun. There you have it, the Dazzler Premium Format Figure, all wrapped up.